back to the vlog. If you're new here, my name is Lauren. I'm the owner of Citrus Diaries Studio, and I live in Columbus, Ohio. And these are a couple days in my life. I unexpectedly took like a 2-week break from YouTube and from vlogging, and maybe it was a little bit of getting in my head about those things and numbers and analytics and things like that. But I was also so sick for like an extended period of time. I get chronic migraines, and they were just really frequent, and they were a doozy, and it was hard to manage, and it was really just like being a problem. I couldn't get anything done. I felt like I was so behind on everything, and especially working for myself, owning my own business, and essentially freelancing. It was hard because I felt like I was disappointing everyone. I felt like everything was behind schedule, even though majority of the deadlines are ones I've made up in my head just to keep myself on track, and I wasn't really behind on anything. But sometimes it's so hard to wrap your head around that, because one thing that I didn't anticipate being so difficult when I decided to go off on my own was that there's no one else telling you you did a good job, or here's a deadline you need to follow, or yes, you can take a break, or yes, you can have the day off, or things like that. I'm the one deciding all of that and simultaneously trying to please myself, keep myself happy, and then please clients and keep them happy. But it's I'm the one setting the deadlines and setting the timelines for things. I don't know, it's so interesting to manage those, because what I've come to find out is that the client doesn't really care, for the most part, what you're doing from project start date to project end date, meaning it doesn't matter to them okay, I'm going to turn round 1 in on Wednesday, but if I actually turn it in on Thursday, that's not going to make a huge deal, at least in what I've experienced and the types of projects I'm doing. I know that definitely changes across the board with people that operate in more strict timelines, but I like to be a little more go with the flow with projects, also because I found that when I have these very strict timelines, they never end up working out. And not for necessarily negative reasons, but things change on the client's end. They need longer to pull materials together. Maybe I need longer to think through something. And so I found that having this more fluid system works well. And it also works well for how I operate, and just in this season of life where my health is a little up in the air with migraines, having that flexibility is really nice, and it seems to work out well between me and the clients. But anyway, back to my point, it's so interesting managing that and managing these timelines that you're making up and being yes, in theory, I could give myself another 24 hours to get this done if I needed to, but also does that make me a bad person because I'm not abiding by these made up timelines? Anyway, it's very weird. It's one of those things that I think I have the hardest part, or the hardest time with, when it comes to being self-employed, is telling myself I'm doing a good job at things, and also not getting mad at myself for every little thing, because I think I'm so type A, so by the book, especially when it comes to scheduling and due dates and things like that. And giving myself any sort of flexibility feels like I'm failing. So it's been quite difficult, all this to say, the past 2 weeks of not really getting down on myself when it comes to work and progress, and especially as I look at the end of the year, which is so soon. I mean, we're 2.5 months from the end of 2025, which does not feel real. And I can't believe we're almost there. And I think back to January of this past year, January 2025, and that feels centuries ago. That feels so long ago. I think about the type of person I was then, just who I was and life at that point in time. I was living in a different house. I wasn't living in my place now, and it feels like where I'm living now I've been for so long because I love it so much. I was doing a different layout of projects. The majority of projects I was doing was very different than the majority of projects that I'm doing right now, which has definitely been a change for the best. But it's just crazy to think that I feel what I'm doing now and the setup and types of projects I'm doing now is what I've been doing all along. But turns out I made that change the beginning of this year. And it's so good that I made that change because it has brought about, the best couple of months for the business, the best couple of months for just like how I feel about things, and also just feel like from a growth standpoint in terms of brand awareness, I feel like more people know about the studio than ever before, which is obviously both like a timeline thing of how long it's existed, but also I think the type of work I'm doing now lends better to having this kind of like expansion out into my industry. So anyway, it's been interesting, and I'm just like, wow, I can't believe the year is almost over. And I get really in my head about numbers and, goals I've set and things like that. And I had such a hard time at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, because I was like, wow, I have hit my goals. I have hit, these financial numbers and just more like project numbers and types of projects and things like that. I'd hit all these goals. And I thought when I hit the goals that I was going to feel so good. I was going to feel so accomplished. I was going to have some sort of like, yes, like I've made it, I've done it, like this was all worth it sort of thing. And I hit the goals, and I remember being in the car with my boyfriend. We were driving somewhere, and I was just so confused and upset because I was like, why do I feel both nothing and like a failure at the same time, even though I have succeeded in so many ways by the books? And he said something to me along the lines of like, well, maybe because like you shouldn't be basing how you feel about work, how you feel about yourself in terms of work, just based on numbers and kind of in some ways these arbitrary things. And, it's something I've carried into this year of trying to not get too upset about numbers and things, again, that like I am making up. I am setting these milestones. And like, I think it's really good to set goals and to set milestones and to have these things that you're working towards, because I think in some ways, if you don't have those things, then like what is pushing you forward? I don't know. But it's also kind of leads to this like, okay, I'm telling myself that the business should make X amount of money, but like, why does a business need to make X amount of money? Like, why am I pushing myself to suddenly trying to bring in, 3,000 to 4,000 more a month? Like, why am I doing that? And it's something I'm still trying to understand. And I think this year I was really hoping to like do this like crazy amount of business and like surpass what I did last year. I mean, last year was crazy in itself. And I got upset because although I am going to like meet my goals and I'm going to surpass what I did last year, I didn't feel like it was enough. And then I had to kind of like sit with myself and be like, okay, we need to like rethink this, because if every year is going to be like, I want to surpass last year by, $20,000 to $30,000, that's not always 100% possible. Yes, you can, increase your prices and do a larger amount of work and work more and price projects higher and things like that. But it also gets to a point where it's like, I'm one person, and even doing like $20,000 more in a year's time is like kind of insane to think about. You would have to do, I mean, for myself, that would be doing like 2,000 more a month. I think that's the right math, but no, that's not the right math at all. Anyway, you'd have to do a lot more a month is my point. And as one person, that is not totally sustainable. Now, do I think probably in the area that I'm at in the business and with how much I'm charging for projects and like those prices steadily increasing, do I think that reaching a goal like that and getting to certain numbers is probably easier at this point in time? Yes, but it gets to a point where, I don't know, in 2 years, 3 years, constantly increasing that number means you have to bring in probably another employee, and that is like a whole thing to grasp. So rant over, it's a lot, and I've just been very in my head about things the past 2 weeks, and I'm really trying to just like chill the fuck out because I don't feel good. I'm in a period where my health is just not fabulous. and I'm trying to reduce my stress levels. And there is no point in worrying about these things and making myself feel worse. And then when I feel bad, I can't get stuff done. And it's just a cycle, and it's not worth it. And I want to break the cycle. And that is one of my goals, I'm assuming. I haven't written them yet, but one of my goals for 2026 is to have a clear plan. I mean, I have a clear plan, but like formulate what my plan is for 2026, try to hit those goals and figure it out from there, because the business is successful. And, you know, as hard as it is for me to say, I am successful. I hate talking about myself. I hate like bragging in any sense, but it is successful, and I need to recognize that instead of like trying to nitpick something constantly, trying to change something, trying to work towards another goal. And yeah, I need to just feel better. But all that is to say, I'm back with videos, and I really hope that you've been enjoying what has been up so far. I feel happy and proud of it, and it's just a fun outlet, and I hope that this platform grows even further. But thought it'd be fun to do a check-in. I haven't talked like too much, I feel like, about the studio and just like about work in this context on here. It's been more just like clips of me working and clips of me cooking and things like that. But if you want more of this like chit chat type content, more talking about life and where I'm at, I'm like so happy to do it. And I think it would be fun to have this place to do so, because I don't really talk about it anywhere else. Because as I've said, I do kind of hate talking about these things sometimes, because I don't ever want to come across like I'm bragging. And I also feel like, who am I to be talking about any of this? But again, it is my life's experience, so it is worth talking about. But with all that said, today I have some computer work to do for two different brands. One is Afternoon Foods, a salad dressing brand that I've showed before. I have some just like random couple things I need to do on like email and social front. I have like a voiceover to record, things like that. I'll put the video here. But yeah, I have that to do. I have a packaging project I'm working on for a Creatine brand, which is very exciting. They are releasing a new like packaging variation of their product. Right now it comes in a powder in a jar. They're releasing stick packs, and that's going to also go in the retail side of things, so it's very exciting. And aside from that, I was hoping to work on a recipe today for a roasted butternut squash that you slice it in half, roast the squash with like sage and pepper and salt and all that on it, and then you roast it till it's tender, and then in the cavity where you like scoop the seeds out of, you put gorgonzola cheese or just straight up blue cheese, and you put it back in the oven until it gets like all bubbly and crisp and things like that. And then you crisp up some sage, some whole sage leaves, and put that on top and serve it, and it's like a fun fall dish. And I really wanted to work on it today, but it is so gloomy, so that might be a tomorrow thing. And then for the rest of this week, I have that recipe to do. I have some other recipe content that I need to do tomorrow for a sauce brand. One of the recipes is like a crispy cauliflower situation, which I'm very excited about because it has been my favorite way to make cauliflower. I might have shown it on here before. If that's the case, I'll tag the video up here, but I love it. I mix the flour with the egg, and then I have panko on the side. I use Cushy's panko, and then I add nutritional yeast, salt, and pepper to it. And I mix the egg and the flour so you get like a paste, and I coat the cauliflower in that, and then I put it in the panko. And I find that doing it that method, the egg sticks to the cauliflower better, because when I've made it before, doing a normal like dredging process, so like first in the flour, then in the egg, then in the breadcrumbs, I feel like it doesn't get as thick of a coating and as crispy of a coating as I want, and then it like breaks off when I go to bake it, or I don't fry it usually, but if I were to fry it, I feel like it falls off. So anyway, I've been doing it this method, and I think it is fabulous. So I'm working on that tomorrow. The sauce on it is going to be like this espresso barbecue sauce from this brand I'm working with. So I'll put some pictures up here if I get it done before this goes out, which I'm assuming I will. And then Friday I have a couple podcast recordings, and I have like an intro segment recording for the podcast that I'm doing. And then what else? Oh, I'm working on some ads for Fishwife, and so I have like a strategy call with them just to talk through the video, which is exciting. And then Friday, I think Wes and I are going camping. We'll be going camping just like Friday night, and like pack up our stuff on Saturday, but then spend Saturday hiking, and then we'll come back to Columbus, and then we have like a birthday party to go to that night. We were supposed to go Saturday into Sunday, but now it looks like it's gonna rain all day Sunday. And while I don't totally like mind rain when we're camping or doing things outside, it's supposed to rain like the entire day on Sunday. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to wake up in the rain, try to get ready, try to pack up in the rain and just have everything be soaking, and then we're gonna go hiking in the rain. I feel like that's a recipe for getting sick, and frankly, I can't do that right now or ever. So I think we're switching to going on Friday, because then next weekend we're going to Chicago, which is very exciting. I'm going to see my best friend, and then have some like work stuff going on. And then we think after that it's Halloween. Then after that we're going to Pittsburgh for a concert. We're going to see Billy Strings. It's Wes's birthday present from me. We're staying at this really cute bed and breakfast Airbnb situation, and we want to hit that sandwich shop, what is it, Brothmonger, that's been like all over TikTok. So I think we're gonna do that. But yeah, we'll be in Pittsburgh that weekend, and then the next weekend we're going to like Buckeye Lake, which is, I don't know, what is it, like an hour from Columbus, but we're going with like a whole group of friends. Then the next weekend we're free, so nothing's going on. Then it's Thanksgiving, and then it's December, and like I'm sure December will fly by, because there's really only like 2-3 weeks that you get of December that's not, honestly probably 2 weeks of December that you get that's not just straight holiday stuff. So we'll see. I don't know if we're gonna try to like plan anything else for December, just like take it easy, because I do think we're traveling with my family over Christmas, and then we'll be back in Columbus for New Year's Eve. But anyway, it's very busy. But I love having weekend plans, because as I've said before, I think on here, is that being from home and working from home all the time, and then also spending the weekends always at home, it gets to be a lot. I get like very anxious and upset sometimes, because I feel like I'm like trapped in my home, even though I love my home. So having weekend plans has been very fun, and luckily I do have a partner who loves traveling and loves being outside and doing things. So all that is to say, it's very busy, but I wanted to post this video and check in. I'll put some like photos up here of some other projects that I've been working on and some other videos, if I have any, which I'm sure I do. But normal videos will resume next week, and if you have any questions or like anything that you want to know or want me to talk about in terms of like small business and being self-employed and working in CPG and food and beverage, I'm happy to answer them. Just let me know. But as always, I would love for you to subscribe, follow, share, do all the things we're supposed to do on YouTube, and I'll be back next week with another video.